Hi, how you doing? Justin Sandercoe here. Welcome to lesson 5 of the guitar pickup with BBC Radio 2. In this lesson we're going to be trying to conquer the almighty F chord. The new chord that we're looking at today is the F chord, and it's got a pretty bad reputation. A lot of beginners really struggle with it, and if I'm really honest, when I was learning guitar, I really had a bad time with the F chord, and I used to learn any song I could that didn't have an F chord in it. The trick with the F chord, if there is such a thing as a trick, is developing the strength in your hand, particularly this muscle here between your thumb and your first finger. And the only way to develop that is practice. So even if you feel like the F chord is impossible at the beginning, it's just going to take practice and repetition, doing it over and over. Again, you don't want any pain in your hand, so you should expect it to feel sore after you've been working on the F chord, because you're going to be using new muscles in a new way. So it should feel a little bit sore, but not painful. If it's painful, you need to lay it off for a little while. Don't practice guitar at all, give your hand a good rest, and then get back into it. So what is a bar chord, first of all, because that's what this chord is. It's an F bar chord. And what we're talking about with a bar is using our first finger to cover all of the strings. And that's how you'll often see people playing right up the neck. And when they're doing that, they're using a bar, okay? And we're going to be barring in the first fret, and we're going to be playing this chord. It's the F chord. So you might notice that the F chord looks a very similar shape to the regular E chord that we learned earlier in this course. And that's in fact how we're going to start playing our F chord. So the first thing I want you to do is play regular old E using fingers 1, 2, and 3. Then I want you to play the same chord, but imagine that you don't have a first finger. So you've got to hold down the same dots. So you're going to move your second finger to where your first finger was originally, which is the first fret of the third string. Then you're going to put your third finger down in the second fret of the fifth string, and lastly your little finger on the second fret of the fourth string. A good thing to check at this point is that this chord actually sounds good before we get into putting our bar down. So just pick out the notes one at a time. Make sure that every string is ringing out nice and clear. Again, a real common problem here is to get this with the little finger laying over a little bit flat. So make sure you get it right on the tip there with your little finger. Now to get to our F chord, what we're going to do is we're going to move all of that chord shape up one fret. So your second finger will now be in the second fret, and your third and fourth fingers will be in the third fret. And now here comes the tricky part. Our first finger is going to reach around and cover all of the strings. Okay, now it should sound like this, but you might find the first time you try to play F, it sounds more like this. Or worse. And you're going to be going, how on earth does anybody ever play this chord? It's all practice. As I said, because we're now playing with the first finger and the thumb together, it's all this little muscle here in between. It's really important that we develop the strength in that, and the best way to do that is practice. But I've got another couple of little tips for you. So the first tip is that the first finger doesn't want to actually lie exactly flat. It wants to sit slightly on the side. So this kind of part of your finger, not the fleshy part at the front, because it's a little bit too soft, and you'll find that it's difficult to actually press the strings down with that. So we're really looking for this, not exactly the side, but kind of halfway between the flat of your finger and the side of your finger. So a good way of doing it, an F chord, as well as doing this little shape and moving it up, is to start with the bar. So put the bar right on top of the fret, and then roll it slightly onto the side. So your first finger is at an angle, then put your second finger down, then put your third finger down, and then your fourth finger. Have a look at it. Don't press too hard yet. Just try and make sure that your fingers are in the right spot. Then give it a good press and pick the notes one at a time. Now, a very common problem here is the second string. Most people really struggle with getting that second string nice and clear. That one. And one of the things that you might want to try is the position of your first finger. So you might find that putting your finger up a little higher lets you get that note easier. For me, actually, that's just made it worse and harder. You might try bringing it down, so you're just using the tip of your first finger. This also doesn't work for me. It's a little bit rattly. So you need to find the right spot for your finger, because everyone's hands are slightly different shapes, so it's really important that you experiment a little bit. Put the chord on. Really? check all the notes are ringing out good. If the third string is ringing a little bit muted, it's probably your little finger lying over a little bit flat again. So tips of your fingers, put the bar down, roll it onto the side, pick them off. As soon as that starts to get a bit sore, have a little break, wobble the fingers around. You know, try. It's going to be that muscle. That's where it's going to hurt. Give it a little bit of a relax, and then try again. So bar down first, on the fret, roll it over onto the side, then second finger, third finger, fourth finger. Press real hard. Pick them out one at a time. If that first string is a little bit dead, you might need to bring the bar back a little bit. And another really common problem for beginners is this. They try and bring their wrist right far forward, and that's really bad for actually the tendons all run through. The tendons for your fingers, in case you didn't know, actually just a slight diversion, all of the muscles that control your fingers are actually in your arm, not in your hand. You can actually see it. If you move your fingers around, you can see the muscles moving around in your arm. And when you lock your wrist like that, it puts a lot of tension in this little point called the carpal tunnel, which is the little tunnel where all of those tendons run through. You might hear about people having problems with tendonitis, and that normally comes from people having this kind of locked wrist. So what you want to do is, once you've got, if you put the F chord down, a good thing to do is just to try and bring your hand up a little bit so the palm and your arm is flatter. You're never going to get it properly flat, but you just don't want it really pushed forward like that. So just try and bring it back just a little bit. And again, I've mentioned a couple of times how important it is to be relaxed. And with a chord like F that's a little bit difficult, just putting your fingers in the right place in a really relaxed way can really help you get to grips with the shape. You know, keeping that wrist nice, looking at the bar, is it on the side, and then go for the press, play the notes, and then relax. Most of us struggle when we're learning the guitar. It takes quite a lot of practice, so let's hear from a true master of the instrument.
First memories of picking up the guitar is, it was a Christmas present from my uncle to my sisters. He gave them a guitar, I still don't know why, and I got a football. But I was just getting to the age when I discovered Bob Dylan and I wanted to try some chords out, so it was just sitting there, so I unbuckled the case and tried to play what my friend had written down from. It was probably a G chord, or maybe an E major. I mean, it hurt, you know, holding the strings down. That's what I can remember about the beginning. It hurts your fingers. So that's my earliest memories. I guess I was about 14 or 15. I was trying to learn a song, just a simple song like Blowing in the Wind or Times They Are Changing. I remember I had this punk tape and I was trying to learn punk songs, and lots of it is just bar chords. And so you're barring across the guitar. And like trying to hold these things down, the pressure it took, so that just seemed impossible. And of course, with practice, it comes.
Now, once you've got the F chord, the big deal is going to be changing to it, because it's not an easy chord to change to from your regular open chords. So of course, that's something that you're going to want to incorporate into your practice routine. A good one to start off with is C to F, because C chord and F chord are often found in the same song. So playing a C chord and then going to the F. So just mute, put the bar down, but when you put the bar down, keep it relaxed. Second finger, third finger, fourth finger. There we go. Press down hard and give it a strum, and then relax again. Let's move to the C chord, give it a strum, and then back to F. Put the bar down first, roll it onto the side, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. Eventually, you'll find that your fingers find their own way there and you won't have to concentrate so much. But you're only going to get to that point with lots of practice. And F is difficult. It is a stumbling block for a lot of people. If you're playing an acoustic guitar, it's even trickier than it is for electric guitar, because the strings are a little bit harder to press down. You can still do it. Don't give up. The biggest mistake that you can make is avoiding songs that have the F chord in it, because it really is, it's just about practice. You've got to be playing it over and over again to develop those muscles, and eventually your F chord is going to be sounding sweet.
I think with learning bar chords, it's a shape that you can use everywhere. So once you learn where the notes are, it's really good in terms of knowing your way around the fretboard. But for me, I found them really hard because my hands are quite small and they weren't very strong, obviously, when I started playing. So it was obviously, for everyone, it's really difficult and it feels really alien to be using your fingers in that kind of way. And the more you keep doing it, the kind of stronger your hands get and the more used to the shapes they get. They're great when you can actually play them, but kind of trying to do a sequence of them I found really hard, and I was trying to learn picking patterns and strumming patterns and things at the same time, and it's just the more you practice them, the better you get at them. And I know that sounds really simple, but it is true, and the more you do it, the more it just feels like you can just do it off muscle memory and your fingers just go where they need to go.
For your 30 minutes practice this week, we're going to be starting off with 5 minutes just working on the F chord. You might find you need a little bit more than that, but again, it's really important that you don't overdo it because you're working on a new muscle that you might not have used before, and if you overdo it, you might end up just hurting yourself. So 5 minutes is a good amount, but maybe doing 2 5-minute sessions in a day might not be a bad idea if you really want to get your F chord sorted out pretty quick. Now, we've also got 5 minutes of 1-minute changes, so picking the 5 chords that you have the most trouble changing between and doing them for 1 minute as fast as you can. Now, that's probably going to involve the F chord, being that that's a really nasty chord. But if you can't play the F chord at all, maybe work on the 5 other hardest chord changes that you can do and incorporate the F chord into your 1-minute changes when you can actually play it. We're also going to be continuing the 5 minutes of the finger stretching exercise just because it's a really good one. And I also would recommend that you go back to doing 5 minutes of strumming with the metronome and really start working on that rhythm, because really sorting your rhythm out is a huge part of playing guitar. And that, of course, leaves us 10 minutes to be working on your favourite songs.